You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world, and have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Hi guys, this episode is brought to you by Air Women, experts in natural hormonal health for women over 40. Bear in mind it's Air spelled E-I-R.
Yeah, their products, they're designed to support energy, which we love,
love that.
mood, sleep,
Love that. Love
and
that.
more, helping you feel your best.
Oh, what more could you want?
We want
and
that.
honestly, we actually love them.
Absolutely
We really
love
do.
it.
And look, if you want to get a 20% discount, just use the OTBF20 at checkout for an exclusive Backfence listener discount.
eirwomen.com.au. Go get onto it.
Yahoo, and have your best
Woohoo.
life. I'm going to do an intro now.
Hollywood
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
Di's
Come on, intro's always mental.
I wanna hear the
lead
intro.
the
Don't
way
you love
today.
it? Rachel wants to hear the intro to her. Okay, let's do it.
I do want my intro. I like needs no introduction. Google
No,
it.
I like it
She actually
because...
needs no introduction, that's true.
No, she doesn't. But she actually... This next guest, Rachel Griffiths, does not need an intro, but guess what? I'm doing one. I'm a Capricorn.
Good.
Okay, so you want to talk talent in the acting world with someone that I've honestly admired for a long, long time, way back to Muriel's wedding. We have Rachel joining us today for just a fun chat. I didn't know where to start or where to go with describing Rachel's background, but honestly, I just thought I started printing off the films that she'd made and my printer ran out of paper. That's the truth. I crossed my heart. and
Small parts.
That's a bloody
They're all
true
small
story.
parts.
And it kept pumping. I'm going, gee, there's something wrong with the bloody printer. No, it was the truth. So that's how much she's done. And I'm not going to mention so much of films until we get into the nuts and bolts of the interview. But I want to say, I just thought some of her awards are worth mentioning, such as Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress for the portrayal of Hilary Dupree, opposite Emily Watson, who I love, has her sister in Hilary and Jackie. In the drama series 6 Feet Under, Rachel's performance earned her a Golden Globe, Screen Actors Guild Awards, as well as 2 Emmy Award nominations. She won critical acclaim for the 1994 film Muriel's Wedding. Her performance, don't cough, Rachel, I'm talking. Her performance won both the Australian Film Critics Award and Australian Film Institute Awards for Best Supporting Actress. I mean, Muriel's Wedding is seriously, guys, up there with the Castle of Australian Classics. And Rachel received a 2007 Emmy nomination and a 2008 Emmy nomination for her work in the unbelievably successful series All My Girlfriends Love Brothers and Sisters, followed by, lastly, 2008, 2009 Golden Globe nominations. I'm exhausted. So, Rachel, bloody hell, welcome.
Welcome to the back fence.
You're terrible. You're terrible, Muriel.
I didn't. That is not my line.
It's my line.
And the
I can
podcast I just
absolutely-
he just did. He said, "I'd rather swallow razor blades than drink with you." That's my line. And can I say that podcast was better? Sorry, Loba. Come on.
Do I say it all the time?
Do this.
I
Do
say
the, I'd rather swallow razor blades than drink with you.
Yeah.
Come on. I want to hear it. I want to hear
I'd
it.
rather swallow razor blades than drink with it. Then again, what sort of champagne is it? Oh, maybe. It depends.
Every girl has her price.
I say it
wow.
weekly. I actually changed it. Huh? You're naughty, Muriel. Don't I?
You do,
It's
you
part of my
do.
vernacular. I just
I
do
do.
it.
I do the what a coincidence, and it always makes people laugh. Like if I run into people, I'm like, "Oh my god, what a coincidence!" And they're like, "Wait, is she quoting her own film?" No, yeah, but I didn't say it, so it's not narcissistic. I'm like Deirdre Chambers.
That
What
is
a
a classic.
coincidence!
But I mean, that was one of your first sort of big roles.
Yeah,
too,
that was my
wasn't it? I
first
mean,
film.
what a cracker!
Actually,
to
that's
start out
amazing.
like that.
Very lucky.
Wow.
Yeah, in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That would have been hard. I imagine that that have been restraints and challenging?
I wasn't in a wheelchair for very long, but I was able to do like 360s on 2 wheels. And I got. It is a little trick I dust off every now and then. I think we were somewhere there was a wheelchair. I think it was in a gallery. We were like in the Louvre or something, and there's a wheelchair, and I sit in and I start doing wheelies, and Andy's like, "Oh my God!" He said, "Can you not?"
You're a woman
And
after our own
I'm like,
heart.
"Woo, woo." I'm like, "But darling, there's 3 more miles of these corridors." I said, "I'm exhausted."
That's so funny. Rachel, you've got 3 children.
I do.
Do they ever watch your movies? Do they see, like, you ever have like a family night and go, let's get Muriel's
They
wedding out?
were watching Total Control when it was on. I think if they do, they don't really tell me.
Oh, they must be proud of you.
Yeah, but they probably don't bang on about that.
Is it like the
I mean-
plumber's tap strip? You
A little bit.
The doctors' kids have the greenest noses.
yeah.
Is it a bit of that, do you
I
think?
think a little bit.
Now, are
So,
you a Melbourne
yeah.
girl? Were you at school at Melbourne?
Melbourne,
Star of the Sea?
Star
Was
of
that
the
it?
Sea girl, St James Primary School.
You went to
First
Rusden?
5 years in Queensland. So my
Right.
dad's family were Bris Vegas peoples. And I was actually physically born in Newcastle, which
Wow.
is
That's where I had my TV show,
Yeah.
NBN3.
Oh, yeah, right.
I love Newcastle.
I love Newcastle,
Yes,
and I think that is like my ideal water temperature. Even though I only lived there for like 3 weeks, I think, So I'm very, very Melbourneian, I think, in a lot of the ways I think. And I think culturally I am that kind of small L Victorian liberal kind of where you float between Labor and Liberal in that old school, not conservative, not a C, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
We are the Massachusetts of Australia, you
Yes.
know what I mean? And there's never
Gone to
been-
Massachusetts.
I'm a Melbourne girl, Rachel.
But
so-
my water, my love of body surfing and my water temperature, is definitely set wave. I do not holiday in Victoria.
I was going to say,
no,
where
all
do you
Bris
do
Vegas.
that?
Nah.
Well, you have to go down
Everyone
the
goes down to
Ocean
Portsea and Red Hill. I'm just
yes,
like,
yeah.
but why?
Going to Portsea,
Just
darling.
why? The water is freezing. The traffic
They've
is
got the big
terrible.
mansion and everything. Why? But why would you go there?
Yeah.
The Sorrento Yacht Club's pretty
We
fun,
love
though,
it.
isn't it? We had a bit
No,
of fun there.
I did a
did.
day trip to Palm Beach. I'd never been because, I thought it was like Portsea. I thought I'd hate it. And I went to Palm Beach for the day on the bus trip.
How long ago is this?
This was like 98,
Right.
97, 98, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just went, this is the most beautiful landscape I have ever lived in Australia. And it just, all these waters, like it was mysterious. And I felt, the people who had lived there before in a way you just don't in Victoria, and the history. And the way the winds kind of change at different. I just got so kind
I
of
should
like.
open a real estate business there.
Well, I went to an open inspection and I bought a house
Yeah,
the
and-
day
and
I went on a
beautiful.
day trip and sold out.
Are you kidding
No,
me?
I did.
I love that.
Oh, did you get a bus up, did you say?
I got a bus
bus
up.
The good old L90. We love
I
that.
like
So
it, yeah.
we're all neighbours from the hood
Yeah,
here.
and I
That's amazing.
Northern
I,
Beaches.
I went to see. There's
is in
this
Sydney
real
for
estate
everyone.
sign on
Yes,
a
yes.
ferry, and I went, oh my God, you've got to take a ferry to an open inspection. Well, we love an open inspection.
Yeah,
So I went over and it's bullshit. I was like, I love the 50s and the rock, but, I don't think I could live,
No.
on a water only thing. They said, oh, well, there's a house really similar over there that's been passed in. And they, real estate agent gave me the address, and I broke in, and I turned to my boyfriend at the time. I said,
I broke into that house.
I said, I'm going to buy it. I said, I'm going to buy this house. Anyway, so I bought it. And
It was
everyone
the
in
thing,
Melbourne
though.
is
It
like,
was
where
stone.
have
It
you
was
bought?
stone.
I'm like, Palm Beach. What? In Queensland? I'm like, no, New South Wales. And I'm like, but do you know anyone? I said, no. I don't know anyone. But
I love
this
you.
place is telling me that I will be
It's
happy.
calling you.
It's
Yeah.
calling
It's
me.
quite a spiritual place,
Very
The
actually.
house was all
Very
made
much.
of stone.
It was all
It was very sexy to
stone.
a reserve.
So we're all back fences here, guys.
Yeah.
We've all got
Well, I
that
had
back
no
fence connection.
fences.
We'll get you back
Yeah, there
again.
you
I had
go.
not a single fence. pants.
Wow.
And I would have people wandering in.
Yeah, well, I
Like, literally wandering into my house. I'm like, this is a house.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm in my undies.
Lovely to meet
Oh,
you.
we just came down this path. And I'm like, yeah, hi. And they're like, are you? And I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Could
Yeah.
I put some pants on? But it was like that then.
Great.
It was
It's very chill.
Anyway,
Palmy.
don't
A
mention
lot of
the word.
people think it's not. They think it's all ritzy and whatever. It's very, very chill.
It was still very boho.
You walk around without your pants on, dating,
Absolutely not. A bikini, you mean? I don't even wear
Bikini?
that now.
Yeah.
It's a cool
It's pretty
environment. I
relaxed,
hope we get
yeah.
you back.
I hope so.
Little
I
weekender
hope
up
so,
there.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Don't you love I'm selling real estate here? Moving right along.
Moving
I
on.
do want to talk about, and if you don't mind, we did mention Muriel's wedding. I want to ask, are you still buddies with Tony Collette?
Look, I haven't spoken to her for quite a few years. Our, lives are very hectic
Busy.
with families. I'm sure if we ran into each other, it would be
Yeah, buddies.
time
And,
just evaporates.
Yeah.
I
You know
love-
what it's like? Yeah, once you have kids and you're working a lot,
Oh.
your
Oh,
world kind of shrinks a lot.
Yeah.
I just texted a friend of mine, actually. He said, this actor that we worked with passed away, and he'd just been with Jackie Weaver, and we were all in a play together called The Sisters Rosenzweig that I did after I made Muriel's wedding. Oh, God, I just
Love it. Don't you love when watches talk to you?
this is
Muriel.
my new
Muriel.
watch.
Yeah,
I don't know how to
exactly.
shut it up.
Muriel.
Sorry. Anyway, I said, you're so good at keeping up with everybody.
Yeah.
Motherhood
Terrible.
and working. We
Motherhood
get
and
it.
work. There's not a
It's
whole lot of
full on.
extra time,
Yeah,
right?
There's
yeah.
not.
And I guess it's the same with there's so many films, and Jai sort of went through a lot, making those friendships. Do you maintain many friendships at all from your?
Well, that kind of period of time does feel like a very, I was in America. I had 3 kids under 5.
Wow.
Didn't social.
Sam
Jeez.
goes,
Yeah,
I know.
exactly. 3 kids under 6, I should say. And then coming back was, it's kind of an era a little bit. And I have not been to America very often, kind of since I came back.
why did you come back?
Why did I come back? Well, number one, I didn't want to be under contract anymore. So I'd been under contract for 10 years, and studio contracts are traditionally they're very hard to get out of. And if you break that kind of contract, if you leave a big show halfway through for even personal reasons, I think it does affect your reliability, and it just used to not be done. So I found it quite difficult that I couldn't choose the content I was doing, because you choose the pilot, and then wherever that show goes for the next 5 years, you go with it.
stuck.
You don't have opportunities every week to say yes or no. It's like,
And brothers and sisters, you were having babies.
it was fantastic.
Weren't
Look,
you
it
having
was
babies
it
during
was
that?
such a good
it was
show, wasn't
fantastic.
it?
But if I'm
All
not
my
under
girlfriends.
contract, I used to get worried that I was so far from home, and if things, with my, siblings or my mom, I couldn't leave a show. Like I just felt it was
a tight contract.
really a tight contract, and if I'm not under contract, I'm working anywhere in the world, and I didn't want my family to be in LA, and I'm working in Sydney. I'm like, that would be
Yes,
stupid.
Absolutely.
So I thought it's better we go home.
Good
And I
girl.
wanted my kids to feel Australian. 2 of them are Australian, and my boy is Australian.
Aussie.
Not American. So we left when he was 7, turning 8. But I didn't want to stay there till he was 11 or 12 and then come home and have him feel American and have 0 rights to be American. Do you know what I mean?
I
That sense of
understand.
belonging.
Yes,
I
yes.
I
thought,
get it.
we've got to rip that Band-Aid off now. I wanted them to... And I've known children whose parents have moved internationally, and, they're here and then they're not quite here, and then they're like, well, maybe I'll go back to, the UK, but they're not quite, they just never quite have that
Anchor.
anchor.
I get that.
Yeah.
And it's great to be an international, person of mystery, but I think it can make it confusing. That sense of belonging, I think, is so in our DNA, don't you think?
I agree with
Yes,
you.
yeah.
100%.
And it's
agree
also
with that.
great if you just hate that. Like you go, I grew up going, people would say, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, leave Brighton. That's all I knew. All I knew
funny is that?
is
That's
that
so
I
funny.
wanted
Amazing. You want to
to
surf.
leave Brighton.
That is so
I don't know what
funny.
and how
And not
that
go to
looks
Oh,
Fonzie.
like.
I love it.
Yeah, not go.
Can I say I live
not go
there?
further
I'm a
south,
Brighton,
right?
Melbourne girl, Rachel.
That's very funny. I just want to mention my other best film, My Best Friend's Wedding. What was it like working with Julia Roberts and Cameron Diaz?
God, that was a really wild experience because I think that was my second or third film. I think I'd made a little film with Michael Winterbottom in the north of England. So that was my first studio picture when studio pictures, really were a whole different economy of scale. I've just, kind of done a bookend to that, I think, with Anyone But You, which was probably the budget that was then, but, now. But the scale up is overwhelming, and you've got a costume designer who it's not, you don't workshop with that. Like, this is an Oscar-winning costume designer and you will be wearing what is on this sketch, and just the kind of trailer land and feeling kind of really aware of the weight of the scale of economy on a director, which in this case was PJ Hogan, who
You'd work
was
with.
on Muriel's Wedding.
Isn't that amazing?
And that's,
I love that continuity.
So it was wild to be with the big movie stars.
Wow.
Cameron, I think, was her first kind of big breakout.
I actually wondered that, yeah.
Oh, she'd done Anyone But...
Isn't
my
she
God.
brilliant?
She
Who doesn't
I
love
actually
Cameron
love her.
Diaz?
She was divine.
Yeah.
And then, movie star, like capital M, capital S, movie star, and just kind of the, whole machine of that. And again, I was really aware of the pressure on her to...
This is Julia,
Julia, especially at that time. I think at that time, if you as a woman were getting the kind of pay packet that she was breakthrough getting, I think she had a 20 million or something insane, or 10. It was
massive.
It was a big parody.
Yes.
But if that failed, it was like...
That's a lot of pressure,
It was
isn't
almost
it?
like
To
you
be
were
honest.
over. It's just... Whereas the men could have 5 failures and still get 20 million.
Yes,
Schwarzenegger could still get 20 million.
Incredible.
So I was just kind of really aware of how hard it is to be creative and playful when you have that much...
There's a price to pay,
There's
isn't
a
it?
price to pay, and I think there's a sweet spot because it's also hard to be playful when your budget is so tight because you've only got 2 takes and there is no overtime. So when your director says the sun's setting, and it's the last picture in the battlefield, you've got 2 takes. We're going to do this massive track, start in a wide.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Sure.
End up on your face, and I'd love a tear coming down your left
Right.
eye.
Absolutely.
But 2 takes. So that's also
and look perfect.
and look perfect.
Even
it
as a
also
wind
sucked.
machine.
So I kind of thought I struggled to be playful under the pressure of those 2 extremes. So my sweet spot is where I can take risks and be relaxed, because it's really hard to do a good performance if you're not relaxed and playful.
Well, how do you do that? How's that possible?
Well, I think one is
I'm
kind of...
nervous thinking about it.
I know. Look, it's the dance you do, isn't it? I think it's
You
a
deep
big
breathe?
part of the journey is to work out what does
Works,
music work? Does mantras work with you? For me, having a chat right before action actually works, but that may not work for the other actor who's really trying to do something very delicate and specific, and they're like, can you fucking shut up?
That's true.
Talking about
Muriel,
what
you're
you had
terrible.
for lunch, is not helping my process. So you've got to find a process that
Talk to the tree.
just makes you not tighten up, because every actor is more magical when they're not tightened up, when they can play jazz.
And what's
and
the
not
behind the scenes? So
They're
funny.
like mouse on the blackboard.
What's the behind the scenes like
Exactly.
there, Rachel? For people like Julia Roberts, and with all the dressing rooms and all the entourage, is it extreme
Trailers,
or
isn't it? It's like full on.
Look, I think maybe it's, I think it's changed a little bit. And this is, I'm not, comparing the actors in any way that is saying she's a this, she's a that. But, an actor like Sydney, I just played her mother in Anyone But You, which was
I love
hilarious.
Yes, yeah.
But she really, that generation, I think just, the hustle is a lot harder. It's, she's one of the most famous people on the planet, and yet actually not getting the pay packet for that fame. So when Julia Roberts is the most famous woman on the planet, she's getting a pay packet that allows her to have the entourage and the kind of just protect her in the bubble, but it was really kind of mental. So it was really interesting to see, you know, Sydney being kind of followed all through Sydney and kind of no privacy bubble. But she has just a work ethic that kind of really understands the business side of it. And I do think the younger actors are better at monetizing the fame to buy them the privacy.
Oh, is that good?
You know,
noticed
like somebody
that?
said to me, like, I just don't get Kylie Jenner and, you know, Charlamagne. And I'm like, what's not to love?
Yeah.
Like, he's with a girl who can buy him complete privacy. They can fly anywhere in the world, turn up in any restaurant.
It's a very good point.
At a kind of scale of rich
Yes.
that actually he doesn't have. You might think, oh, he's famous, not rich. It's a terrible, you know, combination because you just have no buffer. You know, you don't have black flights. You're not flying private. Whereas they can just, you know, they must free. They book out a resort, wherever. You never really know.
No.
Anyway, I was very, very impressed by the business sense of Sydney, and I think it made her feel much more in the centre of the business of being the artist that she is. And I think movie stars of old were kind of kept from being powerful. And if you go back several generations, like great example, there's an amazing photo, and if you have a little visual on this website, I put it up. But Lucille Ball
One of my favourites.
is on the set of Star Trek sweeping the floor.
What?
Why? She produced Star Trek.
Wow.
Her production company. No.
Yes.
But there was a generation of women.
It's really good to hear this, Rachel.
Like
It's-
back United Artists was Mary
That speaks
Pickford.
1,000 words, doesn't it?
Do you know what I mean? Jane Fonda. If you look at what she was producing in the 70s and 80s, amazing films. But cut to kind of late 80s, 90s, women had been kind of cut out of this producing powerful position. They were kind of managed, you know, and I think it made them feel very out of control and not in the centre of their career. Whereas now, you know, Nicole, Naomi, they're producing, they're optioning books, they're finding the right business people, and Sydney's doing that. And I just think that is what has really changed.
And
Yes.
And if they're like,
good,
I'm not
doesn't it?
just a dumb actor, like I've got a business head and I'm in Margot.
Oh,
Like,
God.
Look at that.
And-
That's
Perfect
true.
example.
That's a
You know,
great
and
example.
they said we didn't really know what we were doing when we produced I, Tonya, but you know what? You know how you learn to make a movie? You make a movie and you say, I'm going to learn how to make a movie by
Put
making
your money
a
where
movie.
your mouth is.
That's right.
God,
And
Rachel, you've enjoyed it all.
But I think the younger actors are just demanding that they are centred in their own career, and if that means doing podcasts or if it means optioning, it's not we're in our ivory tower, you know, waiting for the bell to, you know,
Where
come
it used to
down
be.
on a red carpet.
Hollywood,
I
Hollywood.
don't,
And
it
the
didn't
conditions
suit,
have
it
changed,
didn't
that
suit
misogynist
anyone.
period, you know,
So
you were saying the 80s
the 80s,
and wasn't
90s
it?
was so misogynist.
Yeah. Hollywood was the
The
epicenter.
sexual revolution
Absolutely.
in Hollywood
100%.
Were you ever-
it
did
was
you-
not good for women.
Did that happen to you, Rachel?
Well, I was in a podcast the other day and they said, you know, look, there probably isn't a story that it got me into television because independent film has no HR and was like really tricky. But actually, my two strongest like Me Too memories are one of my first jobs working in a coffee shop where the guy behind me was teaching me how to froth milk, standing behind me with his cock pressed up against the crack of my ass.
You've got to be kidding.
Doing the thing with the frother.
No.
And I walked out like in tears. And the second one was I was doing my student teaching rounds to get my teaching degree in drama and dance and was extremely uncomfortable with my supervising drama teacher, and I dropped out of that degree with 3 months to go. And I would say it is everywhere. And I was speaking to Barrister the other day and she said 70% of women reported being sexually harassed by lawyers or barristers or even judges in the last 5 years, and these people are in the
Just
law.
in the making.
Gosh,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
judges,
In the law.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think to have the focus, I mean, Guy Pearce came out very strongly yesterday. I think
Yes.
the men too in my business has probably been the most untalked about, and children. how children have been sexualized and not given consent in, I made this show, Madam, right?
Yeah.
About a sex, woman running a
love it.
brothel.
Yes.
I grew up with Pretty Baby, Taxi Driver.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
I was thinking that.
Isn't it?
Endless
Yes.
Summer of Endless
Yeah.
Summer. That
Yeah.
was basically kiddie porn.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true.
Even
I agree.
Zeffirelli's
Yes.
Romeo and
Yeah.
Juliet.
Yes.
You watch them now and you're like, holy shit,
Brooke
this
Shields
is
one. Yeah,
gross.
Baby, yeah, it's
And
just
Brooke
like,
Shields
isn't it?
talking about
Yeah.
how much she was sexualized as a child.
So young.
Like,
But
it's
12 is not okay.
It's all
12.
about, I mean,
and
we've
like,
heard
oh no,
before,
it's about
women
a child
getting their
hookup.
power
Yeah.
back.
Women
Full
getting
stop.
their power back, and don't make a show about sex work. The hook with a heart of gold.
At least it's been exposed so much now, hasn't
think
it?
so.
And people, if they do talk about it, they're going to be listened. I mean, hopefully it's not
just-
by a judge
It's
who's
true. I just
participated
remember when
in
I
it,
was
but-
with the NBN in
Yeah.
Newcastle, ironically, this is going back a fair way, I might add, and I wasn't allowed to breastfeed. I was doing one live, two pre-record, one live, one pre-record for the 5 shows, and they wouldn't let me breastfeed between the shows, so I just drove out of town just before going to air. I thought,
Fuck you bastards.
thank you for saying that, because
Yeah.
that's basically...
But that
Am
was
I
the end
allowed
of your
to
career
swear
too,
on
And you know
wasn't
what
it?
I learned from that? I'll
Yeah.
tell you what I learned from that is in the car going between Newcastle and Sydney with a newborn baby in the back with my milk dripping everywhere. You know what I learned? Who called? All the women in the building, like the nurturing, the nourishment, the support network. I learned a lot about being a woman in that car trip. I got goosebumps right now.
No, so do
Driving
I.
back to Sydney. And
What a traumatic decision
good
to
on
have to
you.
make.
You made a stand. I'm so
That's the
proud
way
of you.
Di left.
Whatever.
But then you're home with a baby going,
I know.
Yeah,
well,
that was
what-
my career, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
everyone
there
wants
goes my
their own
career.
show and whatever.
Exactly.
But I had to stand up and make a stand and just, sorry.
that was the decision we
Yep.
used to make. You either
Yep.
walked away
Yep.
and you took
Lose
the
it
hit,
all. Yep. Yep. Well said.
Well, it's
or
funny,
you
yeah,
make
all
a
the
stand and everyone
industries.
hates you. And then you give it the
It
cup
used
and
to
up.
be that with-
So lose,
I
come
know.
lose.
I flew with the airlines with Qantas, and and I started back in the 80s. Just before I started, though, it used to be before women couldn't get married. They used to do it when they were single, or they couldn't have kids. Like that was
You're
it.
kidding me?
No.
You
That was
couldn't
how.
be a hostess.
This is years ago. Yeah, back in the
Nicola,
day.
you're joking.
No.
any
no, like
airline
that's,
in the
like that in the world.
Yeah.
You couldn't have kids and you could be married.
No, that's it. No,
Oh
it was,
my
it was a single
God.
thing because it was mainly for blokes, and that's how conditions back then was different. And even when I
Wow, I
started, look,
never knew that.
that wasn't the case when I started. But still, when I started as well, though, they put you on the scales, and you
Were
had to
they?
be a certain thing and a certain look and a certain sort of thing there. Whereas now it's
Wow,
like,
how the
thankfully,
world's
those things
changed
go-
for the better.
And you'd be in the
Thank
pencil
God.
skirt, and you'd be. Whereas now, you can wear your pants and your flat
Hmm.
shoes, and had to be the high shoes and all this sort of stuff. But
It's a different world, but
back-
it's still complicated.
You know what I love? You genuinely have a passion there, and you also, with the movies that you do, and like a girl, I love that because you directed that as
Yeah,
well. Did
yeah.
you tell us about how that
Yay.
came about? Because I just think that's bloody fantastic. Such
well,
a
I
good
guess
movie.
like people think I make my content because of whatever rah idea I've got, but my very first job as an actor was working with the Theatre for Schools company called the Woolly Jumpers, and what I learned from that experience.
I've never heard of that.
Love
Because
that.
I talk about it a bit.
Yes,
'Cause
yeah.
people go, "What
It
was
is.
your biggest
I
break?"
love
And
that.
I go, "That actually was my biggest break." But I learned that you make work for audiences.
Yes.
So when we were making shows for schools, we were all in our early to mid-20s. We don't kind of make a show and then turn up at a school and hope they like it. Like we go, we have workshops with them, we listen to them. We know that this show is for, year 9 kids, the year they're about to go and do work experience. And our show, it's an improv show, is going to explore issues they might have to deal with. So you go, what are you worried about? And then you talk to the kids that did work experience last year, and they're like, oh, I didn't even know this, and my boss said this, or creepy boss, like all sorts. Like we just, so then we went and kind of did some scenarios, and you go back to your kind of target audience to go, oh, I've got some scenes, and you find out what's funny, what's not. If we had a show for our kind of prep 1-2s, we'd go and try little bits and go, get their dreams or, what Imagineering. And so our shows were always tuned into our audiences. So everything I do, I'm not interested in making the world's most amazing film that, one man and his blind dog enjoyed. Like, it's got to be for audiences. It's got to make them laugh, make them cry, take them on a journey, walk in someone else's shoes. So that's kind of my opening approach to content. So when I kind of come across a story, it lands with that in mind. Like, it's got to be something that I care about. It's why this, why now, for who. So when I'd been going to the track as a kid, I guess, with my dad, and I had really fond memories, particularly of Caulfield, because he liked to get.
So does Nicola.
Yeah.
How ironic
girl,
is that? So
yeah,
does
yeah,
Nicola.
yeah.
How bizarre.
Good old Caulfield Cup.
And the day she won the Melbourne Cup, it was just, and I was with a room full of kids because it was a kind of multi-family barbecue. Everyone had their little wager. Well, the girls just lost their shit.
Isn't
like,
incredible?
they were just couldn't
First female
believe
jockey.
it.
In what way? Like,
No, just that a woman had won the Melbourne Cup.
I mean, that's
Right.
amazing.
And I
Michelle
did
Payne,
not
yes.
know a woman was racing, and I actually didn't know there were female jockeys. That's kind of how.
Yeah, I get
and I
it. I
looked
get
at
it
these
all.
kids and their shining faces,
Wow.
and I just thought. And then
How was the speech?
incoming. I go, who's this guy running up to? And Stevie, who has Down syndrome. And
brother,
then
yeah.
them hugging, I'm like, could this story get in? And then I go, it's
Wow.
100-1.
Yeah.
wow. And it
You know,
just
with
gets
this
better.
mob of mullets going berserk, and they bought the house. They bought the horse for $1,000. I'm just like, this story, it's
This
just
mullet.
couldn't get better.
Never heard that.
Yeah.
That's as Aussie as they
That's
come.
just
So, and
great.
I'd
Fabulous.
always wondered, we're a great sporting nation. I don't think we've made the great sporting film.
Yeah.
yes.
And I'd always wondered why, so I thought this is Australia's greatest sporting film. It's a woman, it's about her brother. She's the last of the litter. She's like one of 11.
Because she beats you, John.
She's
This
like-
one's one of 8.
No, one of 10 or 11. Is she 11? She's the last of the litter.
you're watching
and
this all
Dad was a
emerge.
jockey,
Yes,
and the
yes.
kids are all jockeys, and she's the last.
tick,
she's
tick,
the last
tick,
one
tick,
riding,
tick.
and this is the last kind of. She's almost going to give up. This is the last chance for her to put the Payne name, her daddy's dream, in the history books that a Payne won the Melbourne Cup.
Wow.
And it's the last of the little runt of a girl, who's the most
girl,
gritty,
yes.
know.
Yeah.
So
How
it
do
just
you
had
know?
everything. So
Little
I
bite
wanted to
size.
make a PG, inspirational movie that not woke granddads could take their granddaughters and be rooting for the girl. I know that sounds wrong.
No,
It's
no,
very
no.
American.
Took you out
But,
for discussion.
be
I get it.
cheering for this girl, and for it
Love
not
it.
to kind of be leading the kind of conversations we're having that I think can be quite alienating, and a stealth, beautiful story to come out and go, yeah, I think it's great that these girls are riding and winning, because I think that is how you change hearts and minds.
So were you wanting to direct before this amazing
Yeah, I had
vision?
another film that
So-
I could not get up, which was kind of adventures of a young Australian girl in Europe in modelling. And it was, again, it was going to be a really interesting way to deal with stuff that I think we didn't really have conversations about, the control of your image and the weigh-ins and
Yes.
how do you keep your sense of self in a world
But
that
honestly,
so
it's-
reduces you. Anyway, I just couldn't find a way to
How
get
challenging
that.
was it
Yeah.
you to be a director versus how challenging it can be to be an actress?
Look, I think it was really hard because I was fundraising right until the last minute. We weren't, we weren't.
That
You
that
ju-
old chestnut.
To get that, to
You're
get it going.
fundraising. I'm
Yeah.
working on other films because I'm the
Keep it
primary
going,
earner of
keep
my
it going.
family, so
Yes.
I'm keeping the family. But so I didn't.
Mouse on the wheel.
In an ideal world, you'd have a year to know that this film was being made and a full support staff to kind of prepare you for that. So it wasn't ideal for that, and it was terrifying.
Oh.
But look, I learned a lot, and we were the #1 box office.
Yeah, congratulations.
Film of the
Absolutely.
And you
year,
really
and
reclaimed the name too, didn't you? Like a girl, because you used to
Yeah,
be sort of
yeah.
a mockery thing, wasn't
Actually,
it?
I was in a
Like,
cafe the
So
other
true,
day.
Nicola.
Someone
Yeah,
had
she's
this
smart.
"Fight Like a Girl"
Yeah.
T-shirt
Yeah,
on,
that's-
and I was
yes.
like, "Oh, that's cool."
Cool.
Yeah.
love it.
Go
Hey,
you. Well,
hey,
well
did you ever
done.
think to yourself, what the fuck am I doing here? Because it's all like new and challenging and interesting and navigating your way through. Did you ever go,
Oh, I
God,
think
there was so many
I
dynamics.
think every director.
Because directing is
I think
like
every director.
that's my head, and I'm not a
yeah.
director. Just watching them.
Every director, I think, like, you know, you watch the making of Apocalypse
Yeah,
now, and I'm
yeah.
not comparing myself
No,
to that,
no,
but,
no, no.
you know,
Still.
he's sobbing his up a river,
Yes,
is like,
yes.
you know, I think, you know, not, and even Spielberg, who apparently is just so extraordinarily, you know, just organised and sorted.
Bless him.
I think, you know, you always have dark nights of the soul. I think if I was to direct again, and I've spoken to a lot of not a lot, but some directors who co-direct, and I think that the collaboration of that point is more interesting to me than being the kind of, you know, lone auteur with every decision.
Yes,
Like, I like the back and forth. I'm like, I don't know. You
Get
know,
feedback,
what would
yeah.
he be like? And I don't know. No. I think 100%. Or just, I think the matching skill sets. And I think, look, I know, having had that experience with 3 kids who were still at school, you know, still fundraising to kind of get it to action, that I know why a lot of women just stop directing when they have families, because in that moment of directing, no matter what is happening at home, there's kind of no room for it. It is like you have the aircraft control ship, you know, and it's all
great
comms
analogy.
off,
I love it.
and it's like you are the aircraft carrier, sorry. You are driving
incredible.
this giant ship, and if something's gone at home, it's like, deal with it. And it's just not, I think, in our women's nature to be able to just...
How old are your children now?
21, 19 and 15.
Wow.
So
I
what
know.
are they? Has any left the coop or?
One, I kicked one out. No, I actually did.
A steel toe boot or just a sneaker?
No, it was
Stiletto.
No, it was a full boot.
Oh, okay.
It was a full boot.
21 that's out?
No, it was 18.
Yeah.
He had done year 11 and 12
Yeah.
during COVID, online schooling, in the bedroom.
Oh,
He'd
bloody
got
hell.
through it.
We don't acknowledge it enough.
He'd done
Poor
amazingly, but he'd had a pretty wild year 9, 10. He definitely... But he went very,
Well,
very
lucky for
focused.
that.
Listening,
But I
yeah.
just said to him, I said, you've barely left your bedroom for 2 years. You've done amazingly well. I want you to go to university and live your absolute best life. I want you to wake up hungover on the college lawn with the sprinkler going, not knowing how you got there. I was like, you
With
can't.
vomit next to you. That's
Yeah,
what Mummy wants.
just like-
Mummy.
Mummy's little boy. That's
I
Mummy's
was
little
like,
boy.
you cannot.
Be very proud of
You
him.
can't live your best life here.
Yeah, well
and
done.
I don't want any conflict. You know, I really want you to go and do what you missed out on. So he got into college, thankfully, and
Here in Sydney?
no, in Melbourne.
In Melbourne.
Is
yeah.
he thriving there?
He did 2 years,
Yep.
and it was really a beautiful time. Like, so he's living suddenly with 200 people. Like, Melbourne lockdowns were
huge.
really hard.
You had it harder.
Out of
My
the
daughter
whole
was
of
there
the
at the
world,
time.
I
And
Yes,
that
yes.
year was very interesting because, you know, I spoke to the director of the college, and, you know, there was a lot of second years who had year 12 and first year uni in lockdown. And then there were third years who had gotten through school, got to uni to find, you know, all that was
Yep.
promised. There was no there, and really was struggling with
It's
like
like a
depression.
bad dream, you're telling me.
A bad
I can't believe that happened.
dream.
Yeah, I think they
so
were
they
the
had
worst
these
affected.
older people and just a lot of like really depressed kids.
Understandably. Yeah.
And I said to him, you know, halfway through that first year, I said, you know, how's it going? He said, it's the most incredible year. I said, you know, what's different? And he said, well, one, he said, no one is sleeping with their doors closed. He said, we've never had a year where everybody's
That's actually
interesting.
I know,
remarkable.
right? Everybody's.
That's
He's
mind-blowing.
like, we've had to say, you know, if you get
Sometimes
changed,
close the door.
Yeah, sometimes
Oh, well, it
close.
depends on the
So
moment.
people are
Time.
like doors
Wow.
open. He said
There's a
the
bit of
other.
free loving going on, I think, down in
He
Melbourne.
said the other really wild thing, he said, when someone knocks on my door with that face,
Yes.
Yeah.
he said in years gone by, it's somebody with a complaint about
Yes.
someone.
Yes, yeah.
He said 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, when somebody knocks on the door this year with that face, they're drawing my attention to somebody else who they think is struggling.
Wow. What a
So,
beautiful camaraderie
yeah.
too. I love that with
Oh,
the
God,
younger
it's
ones
No, it
too.
was
Massive
really
goosebumps.
beautiful.
That's beautiful to hear, Rachel. It's
So-
really great for
How
everyone.
stunning.
Stunning. Like
Observation.
they came and they all would come to dinner, and
Lovely young
it was
kids
very
doing this.
tender, very, very tender. So I'm glad. I'm
that's
really
really
glad.
shame.
And then he moved out with 4 kids from college, and
Yeah, as a
yeah,
team.
they're
And he's
pretty
happy.
serious.
He's happy.
Oh,
He's really
wow.
happy.
We love that.
Now we
so
got-
the boot worked.
Yeah.
And
Well,
not
one's-
saying to all
well,
of
the
you
next one's
listening, you
the
do
next
that.
one's probably about to get the boot too.
No,
Is it
I
only-
think
oh,
no.
you're going to hang on to this
Yeah.
one. Oh, okay. We've got to talk about Adam.
Yeah,
we have
really, we
to.
love it.
I
what?
mean,
Yeah, what
yeah.
made you grab this?
Yeah, I
role?
just want to tell my next one. You're not getting the boot, darling.
Okay.
I know she'll fly the coop when she's ready. But like,
Yes, yeah.
it's difficult for kids to get to independence now. It's harder to, cause he lives. It's hard to move out. Like we could get a shithole for $50 a week. It's
That's
very
true.
hard
It
to
is.
leave
These
They,
days,
home.
it's
they
more
spend a
than ever.
lot of money on rent, don't
Yeah,
they?
a lot
of
It
money.
really is. It's
And
really
then
hard.
like that upset to go. Also, I'm going to get. I'm getting kicked out in 6. Just to be kicked out. Like
Yeah.
someone who's very ADHD. For me to set up a house is a huge. Like,
is.
where's the laundry? What's the
Yeah.
workflow? Where's the kitchen? What's
Yes.
and to have to do that, like, just
But you're
off
good
the
mum
bat.
not clinging on to them too, because sometimes, despite that, they won't let them
Well,
go.
the boot,
You know,
I like the image because
them
it's
out, bit
sometimes
of-
these days we're helicopter parents.
Yeah,
that's
no,
right.
stay back. We'll make another room. Fluff. Well, how are they going to learn about life
Yeah,
that way?
yeah.
So
gotta-
Well, I
you
think
gotta
you
fuck
turn
up,
you
don't
turn
you?
off the other financial tap and go. I'm not.
well, that helps.
I'll pay for I'll pay for your teeth. I'll pay for your
but that
other
helps.
clothes.
So speaking of
Yeah.
Speaking
challenges,
of-
Madame,
Tell us
Speaking
about
of
that.
feminomics,
Yeah, God, we loved
interesting
it.
role to play.
It was
Could
fun.
you want to just share with the listeners that don't know or haven't seen Madam?
Yeah.
And can
It
you
was
just,
in New
just
Zealand
tell
too,
those that
wasn't it?
don't know this part of the story?
Yeah,
got the book here.
so based on an at that time unpublished manuscript
Yes,
by
wow.
a really educated, probably kind of left wing, muesli crunching Berkeley girl.
Yeah.
She was, had a big adventurous life and was, probably dreamed of a life that was not the life that we meet her in the television show. So, true story. She's married to a Kiwi. They're going to sail around the world, both as writers, have a big life. She's, they're pregnant. The baby's going to be on this amazing adventure. Just they want this big, beautiful, adventurous life. They realise very quickly that their child has quite profound physical and intellectual needs, and they're like, okay, so that's the first kind of spanner in the works. And thinking about what that would look like in America, where there's no health, there's no NDIS, what that would look like is pretty brutal. So they make the decision to go back to, his hometown where he's inherited, a nice kind of spread in the middle of nowhere. And when we meet her, she's 20 years later, 2 kids, living in, in rural conservative New Zealand, because not all of New Zealand is woke inner city Auckland.
No, true.
And the writing career has not really happened under the pressure of surviving. And I don't know if this rings true to you, but any family I know with kids with special needs, especially if there's more than one, they are not driving a car newer than 15 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And they're not doing overseas holidays, and
Yeah.
they don't have the beach house because just between the meeting their needs and the time management that,
And money.
And money.
Yeah.
No, that's what
It's
I mean.
full on.
Just down
That's
to
it.
money.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Full on. And the NDIS has been a game changer for many families.
Absolutely.
So we meet her just, in menopause, just watching the last kind of grains of sand of her dream of the life that she thought she was going to have just kind of slip through. And I think at that point,
No muesli in that.
not a lot of
Muesli. That's
not-
long
and
gone.
working out how to
Long
make lemon.
gone.
I think she's been making lemonades out of the situation for a long time. I think she's had some other little business hustles, like I think the majority of small businesses in Australia are started by women, and often because we're juggling this thing. How do I juggle breastfeeding at work and not having to quit? And, you know, it's like I've got to do, you know, leaving this,
And
do
then
a
be happy
podcast.
and look beautiful.
And look happy and look, and
I'm
just
fine.
and smile when I'm being sexually harassed. So that's where we meet her. Now, this is not, what happens in the show is a deviation from real life, but she's had some other businesses that she thought she could balance, that, you know, that could make the side hustle that makes enough so that she can get, you know, help so she can write and also, you know, put food on the table and have her kids have what they need. She realises that sex work is not only legal but decriminalised in New Zealand. So she goes to check out a brothel, thinking that, well, if it's decriminalised, and it'll be a lovely day spa. It'll be clean, you know, it'll be gorgeous, be served, it'll be well designed. It'll be like, you know, Byron Bay nails.
Spermidine.
Exactly. But it's not. Just more feminine and just better all round and prettier.
Yeah.
She realises it's not. So she gets the idea that she could do this better and do it in a way that's empowering for women, that's not shameful. Now, in our show, she discovers husband seeing a sex worker, instead of getting mad, she gets even. Nice little plot device. It's television. We make shit up.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I love
It's
that.
not all
It's
true.
good shit. It's great.
It's good shit.
Yes.
But
seen
what I love is that she is open. And, you know, as an EP on this, and this was some of the stuff that I brought to the table, was just that menopausal rage, which for me, the reason why your partner or your mother is having menopausal rage is, I believe it is the last moment where you get this giant adrenaline surge that if your life does not look how you want it to look or how you thought it was going to look, you have the energy to leave this husband, start this business, quit this high-powered job, just to kind of go rah, you know, and drag forward.
Steam comes out of the kettle.
The
I'm loving
steam, right?
this.
Because if you don't have that surge for starting a business or a new life or leaving a partner or, you know, changing cities or changing countries or following that dream or moving to Paris, it requires a huge amount of effort. And the drug that is best for that effort is testosterone.
I love that.
It's
Well said.
testosterone, right?
That's fascinating.
Right,
I love
because you know
this.
you have a
Yes.
baby.
Yep.
What drug do you need? You don't need. You need.
Funny, isn't it?
What's the
how
opposite of
we were
testosterone?
designed
The mother
that
is
way.
isn't it?
estrogen.
Yeah.
You need,
We-
oh my
we
God,
lose that
I don't
all-
want to work
I
again. I just want to
know.
be here with baby and
And
breastfeeding.
now it's like, you're on your own, have a great time. See you later. Here's the boot, bang.
Boom.
And now it's about me, myself,
Yes.
and I.
I'm getting it. Yeah,
I love this
exactly.
analogy.
I'm Miss
It's
Sydney. I
brilliant.
want to,
So
you know, I
true.
want to get a bolt hole up here
Yeah.
so
So
she
you and
really
I
got-
can live the
You
kids.
find yourself again.
You
You know,
find
you're
yourself
lost in that
and
nurturing
you
mode
go,
of
I
everyone.
don't, because either you can keep whining
Yeah.
and driving everyone
Yeah,
mad, or
Including yourself.
you
Yeah.
bloody take the reins
Yeah,
and go,
love this.
I am
She did
steering
this with
this
young kids.
shit.
Like,
Yes,
it's amazing,
yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
Like, you
Yeah,
know,
so she's got in our show, she's got a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old who has cerebral palsy, and the boy that plays Quinn is just amazing, and he's not that version of cerebral palsy. He's not Hollywood cerebral palsy where you know it's a supermodel. So, you know, it is difficult, and you have to. I had to, and the audience has to kind of really reach to hear what he is trying to communicate and understand that he is communicating, and it's that representation is just quite groundbreaking, actually.
it's wonderful.
Anyway,
Isn't
so
it
that's what
wonderful?
she does. So she has reached that point in our show where she's like, when she finds out he's seeing sex workers, she's just like, you know what? I just don't have it in me to tell him. I still think he's got the great Australian novel in him. Turn around, tell him he looks hot, and spoon.
Yeah.
Spoon him to sleep. I can't be
Don't you love
asked, right? I can't be asked.
I've got
She's
no
just
energy.
a woman
I've
who's
just got
just
no
gone.
energy.
It's brilliant.
And you know, men say quite a few men have said this to me that, you know, well, men go to see sex workers because they'll do what their wives won't. And I said, well, having spoken to a lot of sex workers, that a lot of the time that's not what you think it is. It is actually just that your sex worker will look you in the eyes and tell you, baby, you're hot, and stroke your hair. And that's what...
And that's it.
That's what
yeah.
wife is... Oh, no, you get the other stuff, but that's what the wife's not
But
doing.
you're just
Wife's still having
beautiful.
sex with
Yeah.
you.
Well,
But it's not
yeah.
going, oh, baby, you're so
Oh, baby,
hot
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Right.
You didn't get the garbage out. You
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
No,
exactly.
someone was saying the other
It was
day,
saying that about-
is men sleep with women with their head empty, and
Yes.
women have got, jeez, I didn't
pick
get the
up the
groceries,
kids
I've got
from
to
school,
I've got to get
wanna
that.
do
The
this,
shoes have got to get
that.
fixed, and
Boom.
two totally different animals.
How was that role for you?
I think I wanted to pour all of that
Yeah.
in because
I'm
I don't think
loving it.
I've really represented that before. So, yes, I'm representing a madam, but actually I wanted her to be so relatable unexpectedly.
brilliant.
That whatever business you're trying to rustle, whatever, you just like, God, same, actually. Different business,
Yes.
but same.
And didn't she try and make the business sort of more empowering for women? It was all the
Yep.
consent. It was very
Well,
much
it's
women
definitely
oriented.
it's
Yes.
consent, but a lot of that is just ours. Like the Feminomics, when I got offered a job, because people are like, "You've chosen amazing work," and I do think about the audience. This is true.
Yes, yeah.
And they're like, "You must have an amazing eye for knowing, what's going to work." And I go, you know what? My biggest filter is how long, how far, how much.
Okay.
How far away is it?
Yeah.
How long is it going for?
Yeah.
Like how many months or
Yeah.
years?
After brothers and
Yes, yes,
sisters,
yeah,
I
yeah.
understand the
How
question.
far?
Yes,
How long?
true.
How much? And am I being paid enough to replace myself when I'm not here? Because the truth is, most of the
I love
time,
it.
to make any money, I have to
Yep.
leave my family.
Of course you
Yeah,
do.
it's a huge
And
Sacrifice.
commitment.
So
Yep.
no, I can't do your groundbreaking indie feature up a fire road in the back
With a
half of the
$4 budget.
Yeah.
Canadian woods.
No.
Plus GST.
When I'm not even being paid enough to put my family, can't
Yeah.
work.
True.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
sometimes it's a lot of money, but it's too far for too long.
Wow.
So what I realised is when I was speaking to women who work in the sex industry, it's same. Like I had a woman say, look, I could drive an hour, work in aged care for minimum wage, miss drop off and pick up,
Yeah.
or I can work 6 hours a week doing this with my regular clients, do drop off, pick up, cook dinner, and not be a bitch at night because I'm not exhausted. And she goes, you know what? The difference between wiping those asses and seeing these asses is
Is it funny?
it's not really.
Isn't it a line in
funny?
the
It's
series?
still a
It's
giving.
really-
It's still like
Yeah.
being tuned
That's
in. It's
amazing.
still, but one's minimum wage and
Yeah.
one's paying.
And they earn a lot more money. And wasn't
It is
it? But wasn't
fascinating.
it
6
too
hours. She
that
said, I can do that in 6 hours.
But many of the men
Amazing
too
it's
that
legal.
would go there as well. I found it fascinating because some of the older blokes too, it was loneliness. That actually does that tell us a bit more
And they
about
want to have
that?
a chat.
Yeah, so Antonia said she realised that, she really
amazing.
felt it's like we're not selling sex, we're
We've got to
treating
open our
we're
eyes.
treating loneliness. And there's a big uproar about sex workers on the NDIS. Well, I think if you are are contained quite physically by those disabilities, it's like the NDIS will give you an hour a week to speak to a counsellor about how isolating that might be, but won't pay for an hour of sex. And I think
Or
that'd be
maybe
quite
a chat with a happy ending. It's
That's a
actually
true-
win-win.
well, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
And many sex workers say it is like they
Some of them
it
they
is-
said they
it's-
didn't even have sex. Like they were all
No,
there.
that's right.
They were all there ready to
Incredible.
rock and roll. To
Yep.
but
and
Fascinating.
I
It's
think
actually
it's-
fascinating.
But there
Yeah.
are one woman I spoke to said a lot of her clients were men in their late 60s through to their late 70s, where that part of their relationship with their wife, who they love and share a big life together and grandkids, and
Yes.
they're just sad that part of their life she's not interested anymore. Do you know people for whom that side of the relationship isn't really on anymore, but they love their life together? That
Yeah.
Of course, I get all that.
Get
It's
it,
very
right?
French. Are you amazed by this comment? We're running out of time. Are you amazed by? Are you fascinated by that?
how much time did we have?
Julie, my sister Julie.
You know,
She
can
does
I
a
tell
little
you the
bit.
funny
Very much
thing?
so.
is
We wanna
my
hear
wa-
everything.
This was so intense that my watch started a HIIT workout. I've been waving my hand. Here we
I'm concerned.
I've been waving my hands around so much. It thinks I'm doing HIIT.
Here you go. Here's a hat
Hang
to
on.
put on. Whoa.
Oh my God, my heart rate is.
Oh my God, that is
so funny. Who needs to do a workout?
Okay,
Oh my gosh,
I
that
have
is so
burnt
funny.
769 kilojoules.
Oh, I love
Just
the number.
saying.
That's a happy number,
Just
isn't it?
saying.
The madam said
That's
69.
That's a very popular number.
Hang on.
Oh,
Stop hip workout.
Oh my
workout.
Oh, that's just so.
I just had to stop that workout.
So
Bing,
good.
bing, bing. Well,
I'm
look, we've
frick-
got some.
yeah.
We could talk to you forever, but
I'm-
we've got some
I'm-
of our
We've got other
signature
people
questions.
to
I love
talk
it.
to.
We do.
No,
Now
we
we've got a couple of our
actually do.
backfence
They might have
signature
left.
questions. Rachel, do you want us to go daddy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, she goes, yeah. Okay, I love this one.
Okay, I've got it.
What makes you happy?
Oh, body surfing.
Oh, wow.
No, literally nothing
You're a water
else.
baby.
And
You're
if
a
I'm
woman after
body
my own
surfing with my children, with my brothers or my husband, alone, like you get to there. But if I'm with any combination, body surfing with my brothers, I just go back to the happiest parts of my
Just quickly
childhood.
while you're there, and
Yeah.
very succinctly in one
Yeah.
sentence, what makes your marriage work?
Um,
Sorry, I just had
No, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look, I
Jodie.
think we have
Sorry, the producer's going to kill me. but-
enormous respect for each other's, as artists, that this is so central to who we are. So that's just a non-negotiable, that you don't give up this thing for each other. And I think forgiveness.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I
I
like
tell you
it.
what,
We're
that's a
both-
lot. How
we're
long
both
have you been married for?
20, we just had our 22nd.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
on
Beautiful.
that. Well, before
Thank you for that. I had to.
Yeah, no,
digress
and I'm
there.
glad
Yeah.
because
Next
forgiveness
question.
is a good thing.
He's also a fucking great cook.
Yeah. Oh,
But
good.
that's-
Hey,
Yeah.
that's better than
Fucking
sex
great lover,
sometimes,
you know?
they say.
He's a
It's a
cook.
turn on when
cook.
they're
He's a
cooking.
great-
Oh, sorry, I was talking. I didn't know what you were talking. 69 or.
I'm seeing that. I love it.
But look, just
It's
we're talking on the
great.
back fence thing,
Yeah.
Rachel. If you could share a back fence with anybody on planet Earth,
Look, she would
Who would
hate
it be?
this. She would totally
why?
hate it because she would not be wanting to have the conversations I'm having. But Esther Perel,
Oh, wow.
I'd be like, Esther, can I just, Esther? I know it's like Sunday, but can we just, Oh my God,
She's
that's
God,
right.
you've got a good brain. I didn't
actually,
remember
that is
But
amazing.
I want to ask why.
That's
I've
amazing.
just adored her from the moment I discovered her very, very early in her podcasts. And, I think I was trying to find language for things I was, struggling with in my marriage and being, married when you're in that, in the weeds.
Yes.
And also I think just women of a certain generation didn't have conversations or the
Absolutely.
language about how I'm feeling and how
So
is that
lucky
being
now.
heard. And I have an amazing husband who is so a task, and my kids are so good. They're like, Mum, if I'm like, you don't understand, they're like, Mum, acts of love are Dad's love language. Like
isn't
my
it
kid,
beautiful?
it's
Gosh,
in
I
the
love
doing.
how
you
aware
know?
they are.
Anyway, I was trying to get and I listened to Esther, where should we begin? And I just found it so illuminating because I didn't have to go to my husband for a certain understanding. I had this other way to get an understanding that helped me have language so he could understand. It was just amazing. Anyway, I was like, you really should listen to this Esther Perel. Anyway, he kind of never did, which was a sore point for me.
normal for a lot
Anyway,
of blokes.
I'm working.
Stuff.
I'm exhausted. There's a party in Caulfield, and I'm like, no, darling, I'm done. I'm on the couch with my gin and tonic. Have a great time. Anyway, he comes home. True story. And I was like, how's the party? The next day, no, it was the next day. He goes, yeah, no, it was really amazing. I had this conversation with this woman for a lot. Like, she was so interesting. When you just end up like next to the fridge having those like, almost like the 90s. And I'm like, still not, we are very not like that. Yeah. And then he said, yeah, she's a psychologist. Like her parents are Holocaust survivors. I'm like, and she does podcasts, and I'm like, wait, who? He goes, Esther. And I was just ripped him a new
That's a full
asshole.
circle.
That is
And
amazing.
I'm like, why didn't you
call me.
talk to Esther for an hour?
The marriage was.
I
come home and caused a fight.
was.
Where's the boot?
I
Boot him
wa-
out.
Exactly. I was so
You bastard.
jealous. I was so enraged that I was like, you
so
could have called
funny.
me and said, well, you said you wanted. I said, Esther Perel in a kitchen.
He's gone to bed.
And then I was like, well, at
Brilliant.
least you finally got to hear her, I guess.
hello.
Oh,
It's a good start in the right direction.
Anyway, I came to bed like a week later because he goes to bed before me, and guess who he's going to sleep listening to?
His
Hello.
girlfriend.
Oh, sexy time with your girlfriend.
Oh, that's great. The fridge Lena. So no more rumination, it's illumination. I'm loving it. We loved Esther.
That
We
is
met
the
her in
funniest
LA.
thing.
She's
Rachel,
amazing.
thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on our potty. You know, like, well,
Oh.
you
I
know,
just love
your
that I've
husband's a
left
lucky
up having
guy.
a
You're a
hit
lucky
workout
one.
No, it's the
and
best
laughing.
workout we've ever
So I was
had.
crying in the last one.
My legs are
wow.
hurting because of leaning on the chair.
Congratulations on everything that you do. If you
Yes.
haven't watched Madam Two,
So
we
proud of
highly
you.
recommend it. And God, everything
you.
else
Thanks
that
for
Rachel's
inviting
doing.
me.
But
So
this
proud
has
of
just
you.
been so much fun at the back fence. So everyone, don't forget to rate and review. Follow, lots of stars you can. We always hand it over to
my
Dodie.
God, I knew
Dodie
you'd
does
say
her own
that.
ratings. So what do you think
it's
for
so
the
hard.
one and only
2, 3, 4,
Rachel?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is there 9 in Palm Beach? The letters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
69.
Oh my God! All right.
69.
It's 69 out of 5. There you go.
Can I just say one more thing?
Always.
Yeah.
Which is why I love the title of your show. Is, you know, like we are very divided as a society right
Yeah.
now, where if you don't think like me, you know, believe what I believe, vote like me, we're all going into our own camps. But it actually goes back to if you can't talk across the back fence to your neighbour, no matter what they vote, what colour, size, shape, age they are, it starts with that. That is the first fence to cross. So if you can't find a way to bridge that fence, how can we bridge anything else?
Oh, bravo! What's that? Mic drop.
prime.
Well, I was going to say thank
Want me
you.
to
We
bloody
didn't even pay Rachel for that one. You know?
And I'm aware of how litigious
I'm leaning under the
it is.
table. That was
Wow,
beautiful.
that is-
Yeah.
Stop
Actually,
suing
stop.
your neighbours and start listening to them.
It's true though.
Oh, they're a
no, I have them
litigious
on
bunch up
for a
here.
cup of tea, no matter where you live.
This one is my neighbour, aren't we?
I'm
We
so
are
blessed.
actually real.
I'm so blessed. I
Well,
don't want you to go.
You're
I love
sweating
you.
that asset. You're
Yeah.
sweating this neighbourly asset of yours.
Thanks, Ray.
Everyone,
Love you,
and
love you,
everyone,
ladies.
back next week. Thanks for listening. Ciao, ciao.
Great workout.
See you at North soon.